Good evening and welcome to tonight's GamedayU basketball show. I'm your host, Elise Jones, and I'm joined here by Saul Meyer, Ben Thomas, and Grayson Blaylock. We are glad to be back after a week off, and tonight we're going to be discussing OU's biggest weakness, predictions who's taking the 1 spots in the next few weeks, and hear from the top 5 plays from the last week. But before we move on, let's go back to Tuesday night when the Sooners were upset on the road. After a 3-game win streak and another jump in the rankings, the Sooners traveled to the Little Apple on Tuesday, where Oklahoma teams seem to have bad luck. The unranked 7-18 Kansas State Wildcats took down number 7 Oklahoma 62-57 in a messy game, and it was K-State's first home win since 2012. Oklahoma head coach Lon Kruger said the Sooners lack the sense of urgency cost them this game.
I thought we opened the ball game, okay. Then we went through a stretch there in the middle that wasn't what we needed to do, and then down 5, I think there in the second half, and really had a good stretch there to get back in the lead, and then gave up a couple threes there. McGurl hit a couple big threes to get back even and then take a lead. So yeah, we got to play better than that.
The Sooners stats don't match up with the final score. Austin Reeves finished with 25 points, and 18 of those points came from the second half. Davion Harmon and Kirkweth also had big nights, so what went wrong? Who or what was the big disappointing factor in Tuesday night's game? Saul, we'll start with you.
I think the biggest problem for OU is their rebounding. Their rebounding has been terrible these past 2 games with Iowa State and Kansas State. Umoja Gibson was OU's leading rebounder with 11. He's 6'1" and a guard. A 6'1" guard should not be a team's leading rebounder when you have guys like Brady Manek and Kirkweth that should be there grabbing boards. Big men aren't rebounding. Manek wouldn't put in the effort, and I think Kirkweth isn't getting enough minutes. Lon Kruger needs to switch up the lineup and go bigger because small ball is not working anymore. Small ball is what's costing the Sooners rebound battles, which is ultimately costing them games. If they go small ball, if they do go small ball, they cannot go 4 of 20 from the 3-point line like they did against K-State. They're getting killed on post defense because of lack of size in the lineup. I just think we need to go bigger and not go 4 guards and 1 center.
No, I agree. I think rebounding for OU has been a struggle most of this season. But for me, the biggest takeaway, there was a few takeaways I could have gotten from this game, but the biggest one was the Sooners did not capitalize at the free throw line. The Sooners shot 9 for 14 at 64% from the line, 20% worse than Kansas State did. Every starter except for Brady Manek missed at the line, and that was because Brady didn't even attempt a free throw. Free throws are easy buckets. You're getting at the line, no defense, nobody around, you shoot a free throw. That's easy points. Teams are giving you those easy buckets. In that game, I know it was a poor shooting performance from the Sooners all across the board, whether it's field goal, 3-point percentage, free throw line. It was just a bad game shooting. But when you get the opportunity to get easy buckets at the line, you need to capitalize on those. You need to get those points, and that's a difference maker. Those points right there, if they went 13 for 14, that's like 5-6 more points right there. That could have been a difference maker in this game. So I think that was the huge thing out of this game.
I agree with both of you. I think the rebounding has been, like you said, a struggle. They did not rebound well offensively. Kansas State had a lot of second and third chance points, and the free throw shooting just has to be better. What I took away is that someone else on offense has to be consistent besides Austin Reeves. Reeves had 25. Harmon was the only other player in double digits with 13. Someone else has to have double digits. Harmon's got to score more there. Harmon's shown flashes, Gibson's shown flashes, Manek has shown flashes, Harkless has shown flashes too. They've all shown that they're capable of scoring, but not on a consistent basis. And if OU wants to make a run in the tournament, at least one of them has to show up on a consistent basis for the Sooners to play well, and they're not showing up consistently, and that's why OU lost the game.
Well, Oklahoma not only lost the game, but they also lost their spot at second in the Big 12. Let's take a look at the current standings. Baylor is still sitting solid at number 1 as the only undefeated team in the Big 12. They're followed by West Virginia, Kansas, Oklahoma, Texas, Oklahoma State, Texas Tech, TCU, Kansas State, and finally Iowa State. Now, obviously, this week's games has changed where these teams sit, but I want to hear what you all think of the current standings.
I think right now it's anyone's ball game. It's a fight right now for the second best team in the Big 12. I have here between West Virginia, Kansas, OU, Texas, OSU, and Texas Tech. 7 teams could be the number 2 team in the Big 12. That just shows that this conference is stacked. And we still have Baylor, who I think is the best team in the country. Gonzaga's good, but I think Baylor's better. And I think that this just shows how good and stacked and deep the Big 12 is in basketball.
No, I agree. That just proves it. I mean, Baylor will stay number 1. That's obvious. I don't see them falling off at all here. Like you said, I agree. They are the best team in this country. Sorry, Gonzaga. But those 6 teams sitting there between 2 and 6, I mean, they are just flip-flopping back and forth. I mean, any of those teams this last stretch of games could take it, and it's really exciting. I mean, that's, like you said, it's the best conference in college basketball right now. Why? Because there are 6 teams fighting for that second-place spot. I mean, that's what you want coming down late in the season is that battle right there. I mean, it can go anywhere.
You're both completely right. Baylor's the best team in college basketball, and it's just a fight for second place between them. Texas Tech swept Oklahoma. Oklahoma swept West Virginia, and then West Virginia swept Texas Tech. Any one of those teams that you mentioned, Tech, West Virginia, Kansas, Oklahoma, Texas, or Oklahoma State are capable of beating each other on any given night. If you had all those teams play just right now in a round robin, the only thing that would surprise me is if someone went 6-0 or 0-6. Any of those teams could go 5-1 to 1-5. They're all very close. They're all competitive. And I don't know that we know much more except Baylor's the best. TCU, Kansas State, and Iowa State are the worst teams in the Big 12 just because of how much of a jumble those seeds 2 through 7 are.
Well, now let's go to this week's breakdown where Dylan Rivera will be taking us through the elevator play.
One of the most recognizable plays in the Warriors' offense, the elevator play, is notorious for getting Steph just enough room to get his shot off. But how does it work? Why in the world is it called the elevator set or the elevator play? Let's take a look at how some of the top teams in college basketball have implemented the elevator into their offense and break down just how it works. Let's take a look at how Indiana runs it. The ball goes to the big man near the top of the key, and take a close look at what the guards do here in the corner. The point guard Durham is going to act as if he's setting the screen, but he'll actually loop around number 2 Armon Franklin and pop out on the wing for the ball. That will open number 23 Trace Jackson Davis up to be able to drop down to the elbow. And here's where the 2 screeners make like elevator doors and close up on the defender. Franklin, who just set a screen out on the wing, is now set up for a straightaway 3, and he knocks it down. This one comes from North Carolina's 2015 season. This one is called the box elevator set. Why? Well, there's the box right there. Justin Jackson will get a screen down low and set up in the low post. If that pass isn't there or the guard just doesn't like the look, he can hold off for Kenny Williams, number 24, to sprint up to the top. And there at the elbows again, the elevator screen is set. Williams goes around the outside. His man is late trying to get around the screen. And just like that, UNC gets 3 more on the board. Here's a unique version of the play from Florida. This one comes on a baseline out-of-bounds play against Michigan in the 2019 NCAA tournament. Allen, number 5, starts right in front of the inbounder and runs to the far corner. As he's on his way over, the double screen cuts off his man. Help defender has to come around and closes out recklessly. That opens the door for Allen to pump fake, sidestep, and knock down the wide-open J. One of the most proficient teams with the elevator is Virginia. This play comes from 2 years back. Elevator screen keeps the defender from chasing down Kyle Guy. And bang! 3 balls good for the Cavs. Now let's put a spin on it and see what happens when the defender is able to fight through the screen. Same play, same team. This time, Guy doesn't have enough room to shoot, so he drives toward the baseline. Ty Jerome, the point guard, cuts down to the wing. The screen at the top of the key from the big man frees him up, and the 3-ball swirls in for UVA. So if fighting through the screen doesn't stop it, what does? Let's go back to Indiana. That first highlight came against Illinois, and the very next game they try to run it against Penn State, but you can tell the Nittany Lions watch film. The man from the opposite corner crashes down. The big man jumps the screen. The defense perfectly rotates, and they force Finney into a tough fadeaway. He makes it, but it's not an ideal shot late in the game with the clock ticking away. There's some different variations of the elevator set for you. And with that, I'll hand it back over to Elise.
Thanks, Dylan. Coming up next on Game Day U, we're going to discuss what Oklahoma needs to do to come out atop against the Pokes. Stick around. Welcome back to Game Day U. After Oklahoma's K-State loss and falling to number 4 in the Big 12, there's a lot of talk about the weaknesses of this team. So what is Oklahoma's biggest weakness? Do you think the weaknesses of this team will spell their downfall in the tournament if not addressed?
Yes, I do, and I think that OU's biggest weakness is Brady Manek, specifically OU's reliance on him. The Sooners still think that he is a number 2, maybe even the best player on the team, and that's just not true. Austin Reeves has taken over, and this is his team. His production does not match his minutes. He went 1 from 7 from the field and 0 for 5 from 3 with 1 rebound, 1 assist in 16 minutes. If a player puts in 0 effort on defense, which he does, and can't get rebounds, which he can't, he should at least score 20 points to balance it out. Brady Manek against Kansas State, the second worst team in the Big 12, got 2. Not 20 plus, he got 2 against Kansas State. He gets bullied down low. His defense is non-existent. Teams with big centers target Brady Manek when he's on the floor, and I think that Lon Kruger needs to switch up the lineup and maybe give Kirk West some more minutes instead of Brady Manek.
Yeah, he definitely needs to get something going there, and maybe moving him to a reserved role might just be the move for this team moving forward. But for me, the biggest weakness is rebounding. Saul talked about it earlier, and I'm going to go off of what he said. A top 10 team in the country should be really good at rebounding, but to me, that is one of OU's biggest weaknesses. Austin Reeves, a guard, leads this team in rebounds at only 5.5 a game. I mean, like, just any guard can average 5.5 a game. I think Cade Cunningham's doing it at OSU. It's a fundamental part of this game, and OU seems to just lack that ability. And in the Big 12, only 4 OU players are in the top 30 for rebounding. And that's saying something there, because there's probably some bench players who are averaging more than some of these OU players. And when it comes into the tournament and in the Big 12 tournament, rebounding is crucial. That takes away second chance points on the defensive side. And on the offensive side, that creates second chance points that can lead to buckets and increase your lead and win games. Rebounding is huge, and OU needs to figure it out, whether it's big ball, I don't know. They need to figure it out.
Ben, I completely agree with you. Their defensive rebounding especially has been absolutely atrocious in all of their losses recently. Since OU's last blowout, though, they've had 8 straight games where it's been single digits. They beat Kansas by 7, they beat Texas by 1, they beat West Virginia by 1. They lost to Texas Tech by 5, they lost to Kansas State by 5. This team plays good against good teams, and it plays bad against bad teams. They're not consistent, and you saw it against Kansas State. They didn't shoot especially well. They didn't rebound especially well. And like I said earlier, someone besides Austin Reeves needs to step up and be a reliable second option for this team.
Well, the weaknesses and strengths of this team will be revealed this weekend as they take on Cade Cunningham and the Oklahoma State Cowboys on Saturday. What can we expect to see in Bedlam? What's it going to take for the Sooners to beat the Cowboys?
Easy. Stopping Cade Cunningham. That is the key to OSU winning or losing basketball games. Cade Cunningham. If he wants to go off for 25 plus, which he can, they win games. If he, doesn't really feel like playing, he won't. The key to winning this game for the Oklahoma Sooners is stopping Cade Cunningham. And with Lon Kruger's defense, they have shown that they can stop these big players and that it's doable. Mac McClung did that. The only problem I see with Cade Cunningham's game is that he shuts down in clutch time. And if OSU wants to win this game, Cade Cunningham's going to have to put up a big game.
No, yeah, I agree with you there. They definitely need to shut him down. I would love to see Elijah Harkless on him because he shut down Mac McClung against Tech. But for me, OU needs to continue to just lock down defensively and not get lazy offensively. OU loves to jump out and get a little bit of a lead going, and then it seems like those teams just catch up and they get right back into it. It happened against Bama twice, and in Iowa State, one of the most recent games, they were up 41-25 at half. And then Iowa State came back after halftime and took the lead 46-45. Totally just getting every single bucket, anything. It looked easy against this OU team. And that's something that they cannot afford against Cade Cunningham and the Cowboys, because Cade Cunningham, if he gets it going and OU is not able to continue to get points, they will get points. They will get a big lead, and I don't know if they'll blow it out of the water if OU shuts down offensively like they have recently, but it could get bad. So if they just stay locked in, they keep the foot on the gas pedal, don't let up, OU should be able to contain this OSU team and hopefully turn that into buckets on the other end of the floor.
I completely agree with both of you. I'd like to see a Walker take a shot at guarding Cunningham. A Walker's a little bigger than Harkless. I think it'd be a good defensive matchup, and you can't forget about Isaac Likely. If you focus too much on Cunningham, he's going to get open shots. He'll make those. The Sooners have to do what they've been doing. Even though they lost to Kansas State, this is still a good basketball team that's capable of winning these big-time games. In 2021, if Oklahoma has scored less than 62 points in a game, they've lost. If they've gone over 62 points in a game, they've won. So scoring more than 62 points is a pretty good start to beating the Cowboys. And I would use the loss against Kansas State as motivation. It's a bad loss. It's probably one of the worst losses that a top 10 team has had this season. But the Sooners can use it as motivation to bounce back.
One player on OU women's team was able to use the game and her love for basketball as an escape during a tragedy. GamedayU's Grace Burgett has the story of how Taylor Weitenheimer persevered after losing a loved one.
Dribbles left, back to Tot. Tot off left wing to Weitenheimer for a three. It's good! Tatum knocks down another three.
Tatum Weitenheimer, one of the OU women's basketball starting 5, has a lot more than basketball on her mind. but Weitenheimer says that her OU family has been there for her every step of the way.
I just recently lost my grandpa, and just the way that they've been there for me, reached out. Coach Cole was checking on me every single day, offered to do anything that she could. And it's like a real it's a real family feel.
Just a few weeks ago, Weitenheimer and the Sooners took the floor against Kansas the day after her grandfather passed away. Weitenheimer says that winning the game was her way of honoring him.
Basketball has always kind of done that for me. It kind of just gives me a space where I can just be free and play and not necessarily forget about it, but where I can just lay my emotion on the court, and that's kind of how I can honor him.
Weitenheimer plays a huge role on the Sooners' small roster of 7 players and continues to set an example of teamwork and an atmosphere of family. Grace Burgett, GamedayU.
Coming up next on GamedayU, we're sending it to our remote team, Amaya Ward, Grace Burgett, and Tyler DeLuca to hear about who should go #1 overall in the WNBA draft.
Hello everyone and welcome back to GamedayU. I'm Tyler DeLuca, joined here with Grace Burgett and Amaya Ward. How are you two doing today?
So excited to be back, Tyler. I'm ready to talk some basketball.
I'm super excited to have Grace back, but I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing fantastic. We have a lot on the slate for you today. We got OU women's basketball. We got #1 seeds and #1 picks. But first, let's send it over to OU women's head coach Sherry Cole to hear her thoughts on last night's game.
A lot of guys offensively just had good balance, and I thought we played together well, and we made some good decisions with the basketball, attacked screen coverage as well, and rebounded well, all 5 of us. So just a pretty solid 40 minutes for our team.
Okay, we just heard from OU women's head coach Sherry Cole about her thoughts from last night's win against the TCU Horned Frogs. Amaya, what was your biggest takeaway from the game?
My biggest takeaway from last night's game was definitely the rebounding. I thought that the Sooners did really well with rebounding. I mean, when they played Baylor, they had 19 rebounds. Versus TCU yesterday, they had 33. And 28 of those rebounds were defensive rebounds. And the Sooners are a guard-heavy team. Everyone knows that, we know that, and I think TCU knew that, and that's why they started center Michelle Berry, who is 6'2", to have that tall player in the paint. And the Sooners were still able to get around her, get their hands up, and get those defensive rebounds. And so I was overall very impressed on how they went about their rebounds and got the ball down the court and were able to get some shots in.
I agree. I mean, I was a post player in high school. I know how important that rebounds are. But my takeaway from last night has got to be penetration in the paint. The Sooners did such a great job last night of driving the lane and getting to the bucket, which is something they don't do very often. We're a very guard-heavy, small roster, so the Sooners tend to play a very wide, spread-out offense and play very relaxed. So I think that they really got aggressive last night, took it to the paint, which makes so many opportunities for them. I mean, when you drive into the paint, you can dish it out to an open player if the defense falls in on you. If the defense stays out, then you can go in for an open layup. Or you can get to the free throw line, which the Sooners did a great job of last night. They were 10 for 10 from the free throw line with 100% from behind the charity stripe. Even T-Rob last night did insane. I mean, she was driving to the paint more than I've seen her drive to the paint all season. It was amazing.
Yeah, you touched on Taylor Robinson driving to the paint, her aggressiveness overall, and that was my biggest key to the game. Last weekend against Baylor, she only had 9 field goal attempts. That's not enough for when you're arguably the best shooter in the entire nation. She went 4 for 9, and honestly, I don't care about the misses. I just need her to keep shooting the ball, and she did that last night against TCU. She went 10 for 16, 6 for 11 from behind the arc, and those are the type of stat lines you need from her. We saw, she's going to make shots. There's no question about that. So the more that you can get her shooting, the more it opens up the entire offense. You talked about driving to the lane and kicking it, and that makes it much easier for Taylor Robinson. But if Taylor Robinson isn't taking those shots, then the defense is going to continue to close up and make it even harder for players like Maddie Williams to get into the paint or into that mid-range area if they're sagging off of her. So the more that Taylor Robinson can shoot, the better off the OU team will be. I love the aggressiveness I saw from her last night, and I hope that it continues for the rest of the season as OU is a much, much, much better team whenever she's around 14, 15, 16 shot attempts on the night. So now, we talked OU. Let's talk national scale. Amaya, who is going to be the number 1 seeds of the national tournament?
The number 1 seeds for sure are going to be UConn, Stanford, South Carolina, and North Carolina State. Okay, UConn. Who is going to bet against UConn? I'm not. I don't think you guys are. No one is. They have Paige Becker on their team, who's averaging 21 points. They have held that number 1 spot for the past 2 weeks, and I do not see them giving that up anytime soon. Stanford, they just won the Pac-12, and they had me worried after those 2 back-to-back losses, but they came back and they proved themselves, and now they're in a 10-game winning streak. South Carolina, they're leading the Southeastern Conference with Aaliyah Boston. She is a beast, averaging 13 points and 11 rebounds, and I think with the help of Zia Cook and Bree Bill that they are definitely one unstoppable team. And North Carolina State, let me just start off by saying they beat Louisville 74-60. They have such a great defense. They had 31 rebounds on defense, and compared to Louisville's 23, they have Jakia Brown, who's averaging 14 points a game, and they have one of the best centers, Kayla Jones, who's averaging 15 points a game, and I honestly think they will win the ACC tournament, and that only proves that they are a number 1 seed.
Maya, nice try, but no. My number 1 seeds have got to be UConn, Stanford, South Carolina, and hear me out, Texas A&M. UConn, like you said, speaks for itself. They're an amazing team consistently. Gino Auriemma is an amazing coach. He's going to get them to a number 1 seed. Stanford, like you said, had the 2 losses, but have redeemed themselves since then, proved themselves against teams like UCLA, Arizona, Oregon. They're an obvious choice. South Carolina, they have 3 losses on the season, but I think that they've been playing really well lately, and they have an insanely difficult strength of schedule, and that speaks for itself. And then lastly, Texas A&M. Texas A&M kind of snuck up on me a little bit. I didn't really pay attention to them much, but the past few weeks, they've somehow wedged their way into my number 1 seeds. And I know what you're thinking. Grace, Texas A&M and South Carolina play each other this Sunday. How can they both be 1 seeds? Shouldn't the loser drop to a 2 seed? And my answer to that would be no. I think that they're both good enough teams that even with a loss to one another, that won't cost them their number 1 seed. I think they're both good enough teams, and I think that everyone knows that, and I think that even with a loss, they can still keep their number 1 seed.
Well, Grace, quite frankly, I think it's insane that you don't have a team from the ACC within your top 4, but have 2 from the SEC. I understand, the point. I think Texas A&M is a great team and it should automatically be a 2 seed, but I don't see them as a 1. I have UConn, South Carolina, Stanford, and Louisville. UConn, you touched on it already. You guys both did. Paige Beckers is arguably the best freshman in the nation, only with Caitlin Clark there as, competition. Arguably one of the best players in the nation, really. Their offense is clicking, and they are hitting their stride at the perfect time. The one worry I have about UConn is their three-point shooting. Outside of Beckers, they don't have much. And when you come into the tournament when, games can get super high scoring, you get fatigued, that three-point shooting can come in handy, and that's my one worry about them. I picked South Carolina to win it all earlier on this show throughout the season, and I'm not backing down now. I think that they're a 1 seed. I think that they will beat Texas A&M on Sunday because they have Aaliyah Boston, who is an absolute beast. They have two really good guards that struggle sometimes with their efficiency with Ncaa Cook and Destiny Henderson, but if they're able to stay efficient, there's no reason why South Carolina should not be a 1 seed after winning the SEC. Next is Stanford. They're riding high on the west side of the nation right now. Oregon, that's a win. Arizona, that's a win. And the Arizona win was very impressive to me because of the way they did it. It was an extremely balanced attack with 4 out of their 5 starters hitting double figures, and that can be a huge asset come tournament time because if one player goes cold, you have at least 3 others within your starting lineup ready to pick up that slack. But sometimes you don't have that luxury. Sometimes you have a star player, and that is what Louisville has because they have Dana Evans, who's averaging over 20 points a game. And I know they lost to NC State earlier in the season. I'm still not sold on NC State. I'm still very, very suspect of them. But I think that Louisville is going to go in the ACC tournament with revenge on their mind. I think they're going to plow through that tournament, and Dana Evans is going to take over, leading to a revenge win against NC State and eventually a 1 seed for Louisville.
You say you're suspect of NC State. I say I'm suspect of Louisville. I can't see how you can have them in your top seeds when they don't play anybody all season. I mean, sure, they were ranked number 1 for a while, and their record isn't that bad either, but that's because they don't play anybody.
And I understand the straight to schedule question, but I'm very much, if they're able to go and prove that they're able to beat NC State within the ACC tournament, if they run through the ACC tournament like I expect them to do with that just revenge mentality, I don't see how you can't put them in as a number 1 seed with the way Dana Evans has been playing this entire season. So now let's go from number 1 seeds to number 1 picks. Amaya, who is going to be the number 1 pick in the WNBA draft?
The number 1 pick will be Aari McDonald, All-American. She plays for the Arizona Wildcats. I mean, let me start off by saying she was eligible for the draft last year, but she opted out and decided to grace the Wildcats with her presence one more time this season, and I think that was the best decision. I mean, she has been the reason that Arizona is on the map. Like, they have improved so much, and I think she is the reason why they have been ranked in the AP top 10 throughout their season. And she is one of the fastest players, I think, in the nation. She leads the Pac-12 in defense. She's the Pac-12's best defensive player, and she's 5'6". But it's her speed. I mean, like, if you think she's fast with the ball, you should see her without the ball. You never know what she's going to do. She might attack the rim with the ball, or without the ball, she will just be unstoppable. And so I definitely think that Aari McDonald gets better every single year, and she's very deserving of the number 1 pick.
Amaya, I'm going to have to disagree once again. I think my pick has got to be Charlie Collier. How can it not be Charlie Collier? She's 6'5", junior eligible, and she's just playing the best basketball of her life right now. She's got 21.2 points per game, 12.5 rebounds per game, which gives her the top spot in the Big 12 in that category and the number 4 spot in that category nationally. I mean, she has a 51% field goal percentage, and she's shooting 80% from the free throw line. If the Dallas Wings want a post player, they've got one.
Yeah, and I think the Dallas Wings need a post player, so I'm going to agree with you and say that Charlie Collier is who they should pick with the number 1 draft pick. They traded Katie Lou Samuelson away to Seattle for that pick, losing out on a bunch of size. They have Satu Sabali there, who is more of a stretch forward in my eyes. She's able to really handle the ball and shoot it, but doesn't really have that post presence, of dominant post presence like Charlie Collier does. And they have Arike Ogunbowale at the guard spot, who had led the WNBA in scoring across the league last season, so they don't need a guard either. So I think Charlie Collier is the obvious pick for them, as they need a dominant post force that is able to take you down to the rim and punish you and provide defensive backup for Satu Sabali, because she's not the greatest defender in the world. So I think that pick and roll with Ogunbowale and Collier and Sabali is going to be absolutely disgusting, and that is the route that they should take. So now we're going to send it back over to the studio team as they discuss the possibility of eliminating one and dones. Stick around.
Welcome back to Game Day U. Before we predict the top seeds in their biggest competition, here's Dylan Rivera with the top 5 plays from last Wednesday to this Wednesday.
Thanks, Elise. We start with an American Conference battle between Houston and Cincy. Reggie Chaney sets the screen, gets the ball on the roll down, and fillet! The fancy up and under finish gets Chaney around the defender, and he drops it in for 2. Screen, roll, jelly. Houston gets the big win, 90-52. Next, we travel to New Jersey. Indiana at Rutgers. Trace Jackson Davis has been a highlight machine this year, and he starts this game out with a bang. First 2 points of the game. The Southpaw Hoosier sets the pick, gets it back, and jams it in the defender's face. The Scarlet Knights get the last laugh, though, as they finish the game on top 74-63. Toledo at Buffalo. It's fitting that Seth Milner plays for Toledo because he takes off like a rocket for the poster jam. Everyone is so fired up, his teammate even gets a tech for screaming in the defender's face. On the fast break. 1, 2, boom, drop. Toledo gets the win, 80-70. In Durham, Blue Devils of Duke and the Syracuse Orange. How about Goldwire to Williams for the half-court alley-oop? Sheesh! Long lob pass and the ferocious slam. Duke walks out with the win, 85-71. And for the top play this week, we go to Michigan State versus Purdue women's basketball. Tie ball game, but Tori Osmond calls game. The teammates come swarming. It's celebration time in East Lansing. But wait. The question always remains, did she get it off in time? 0.8 on the clock. That's a game winner, ladies and gentlemen. That's your top play. And with that, it's back to you, Elise.
Thanks, Dylan. March is a few days away, and that means March Madness is just around the corner. With conference tournaments in the near future and the regular season coming to close in just a few weeks, who do you think will sit at the 1 spots?
I think we've all got our top 3 1 seeds at the same with Gonzaga, Baylor, and Michigan, and the 4 seeds pretty much a toss-up. And I think it's going to be a team from the ACC, the best team from the ACC, Virginia, do we call them defending champs? Because there wasn't a season last year? I guess they're the defending champs, Virginia Cavaliers. I think that they're a solid team. I think Gonzaga and Baylor will be a top-up between which one will be the actual best 1 seed and which one will be the second best 1 seed. And I think it boils down to where I think Baylor should be the better team because they played better teams. Gonzaga's undefeated, but they've played teams like, let me check my notes, Pacific, Portland, Dixie State, and Northern Arizona. I know where one of those schools are. But yeah, I just think that the 4 seeds are going to be Gonzaga, Baylor, Michigan, and Virginia at the 4 seed.
Solid pick, but I'm going to go with a team a little higher up in the rankings. And if I'm talking about them, they must be doing well because I never talk highly about the University of Illinois basketball team. They are 16-6 overall, 12-4 in conference, only second to Michigan, who I also have as another number 1 seed as well. This team might be one of the best teams in college basketball. I truly believe so. Yes, they did just lose to Michigan State by a lot. Yes, but that team is 12-9, above 500, coached by Tom Izzo, Hall of Famer, one of the best. I mean, that's a well-coached team. To me, not a huge loss. But honestly, Ayo Dosunmu and Kofi Cockburn are 2 of the best players in college basketball. Dosunmu's averaging 21, 6, and 5. I mean, this team, when those guys are hot, this team is firing on all cylinders, and they are a scary team. I think they can make it to the Final Four. I also think they could even make it to the championship game. They are that good and that dangerous of a team.
So I see your final 1 seed in Virginia with the recent national title, and you usually are about defense. Ben, I see your hometown school with the National Player of the Year candidate in Ayo Dosunmu. And I'll raise you both with the team that didn't just lose this week, and that's the Florida State Seminoles. Illinois, like you said, lost to Michigan State by 11, and in most years, that's not a bad loss, except that Michigan State's about to miss the tournament for the first time since 1997. It's a historically bad year for the Spartans. Virginia's a little worse. They're over a week removed getting from getting pummeled by guess who? Florida State. That was a 21-point loss for your Cavaliers, Sol. And they lost last night to North Carolina State. North Carolina State's not even close to the bubble. Meanwhile, Florida State hasn't lost since January. They're 14-3 on the season. They have that good win over Virginia. They might be one of the most balanced teams in the country outside that top three of Baylor, Gonzaga, and Michigan. If they win in Chapel Hill on Saturday and then the ACC tournament, they're a lock for the final 1 seed. If you put Duke and say you've got a Duke team that's 20-3 about, which is what they'd be, and say we need a last 1 seed, they would get the 1 seed. Even though Florida State is a blue blood, the ACC championship in their respect should be just the same. The Seminoles are going to be the last 1 seed in the tournament this year.
So you don't think if Illinois beats Wisconsin coming up, Michigan and Ohio State, all ranked teams, you don't see Illinois and then making a deep run in the Big Ten championship, or Big Ten tournament, let's say to the championship game. You don't see them as a number 1 seed. They're ranked like 5 right now. They'll probably drop a couple spots, but they're ranked top 5 right now.
Yeah, they are a top 5 team right now, but I don't think they can beat Michigan. I think it's going to be a good game. I don't know if they'll beat Ohio State. I do think they'll probably end up beating Wisconsin, but if they don't make a deep run in the Big Ten tournament, even though their resume will be good, I think they'll end up as the 5th overall seed and the top 2 seed. But I don't think without a conference championship that you can justify putting Illinois there, even with the good wins and the good losses, over a 3-loss Florida State team.
Well, hopefully Florida State gets that ACC championship, man.
They've got to beat Virginia, Virginia Tech, and win in Chapel Hill on Saturday. 3 games to go in 20-3.
Well, these teams may take the 1 spots, but it doesn't mean they won't face challenges along the way. Who do these teams not want to see in the tournament? What schools could come in and give them a tough battle?
I've got the LSU Tigers. Go Tigers. And they're 14-7 right now, putting them at 3rd best in the SEC. And the reason I think that they're going to upset is because they play offense really well, which in the March Madness tournament means that any win can happen. They have guys like Cameron Thomas and Javonte Smart that can ball out for them. They beat Tennessee and Arkansas, and they kept it close with Texas Tech. Right now, they're projected at an 11 seed, and I don't think they can make a deep run, but I wouldn't be surprised if they upset a 6 seed in the first round. You know, they shoot the 3 almost as well as anyone in the country, and which means they can come back from any deficit. They don't play defense very well, but if you're looking for an upset, you need just a magic night where LSU can score, 100 or 90, 80 if they can, and just outscore an opponent in a quick upset.
Yeah, that's a good pick, but I'm going to go with the team that is known for their Cinderella story, Loyola University of Chicago. That name kind of sounds familiar, right? Yeah. Sister Jean and the boys in 2018 made a Final Four run as an 11 seed, and right now they're projected to be somewhere between 8 and 10. And if they make it, and Sister Jean's on that sideline, you bet they can make a run in the tournament for sure. They are sitting at 19-4, ranked in the top 25, 14-2 in their conference, sitting at 1st, and on paper doesn't seem like a tough team, but the other team that's ranked 1st in that conference is Duke, and they beat them by 24 points earlier this year. So this team has a lot of shooters. They're led by big man and star Cameron Krutwig, who's leading the way with 15 points per game, 6 rebounds, 3 assists. This team doesn't seem as scary as some of your blue bloods, but this team knows how to play in this tournament, and they can definitely make a run.
I like both of your picks. There's several teams that top seeds won't want to see, and another one of them is the Colorado Buffaloes. The advanced metrics, like the Buffs, the bracketologists don't. They have them as a low 7 seed, but they're in the low 20s in the net, the KenPom, the other advanced metrics. They're undefeated in neutral site games this year, and the entire tournament's being played in Indiana, so I like that as a bonus. They have neutral site experience. All their losses are close. They only have 1 double-digit loss on the season, and they just avenged that a few weeks ago against the Arizona Wildcats. The other ones, twice by 9 points, twice by 3 points, twice by 4 points. And then you can see right there, it's old South Carolina highlights, and that's because McKinley Wright, the Buffs' best player, is my player comparison for him. It's Darius Thornwell from the Gamecocks. They're similar free throw shooters. They have similar styles of play. South Carolina made a Final Four run, and I don't think the Buffs are good enough to do that, but they're good enough to beat a 2 seed.
Well, moving on to another controversial topic in college basketball, the ever-present question: should the NCAA allow or eliminate one-and-dones?
Yes, I think they should eliminate the one and done rule, but I think they should make it like football where you get, 2 or 3 years of eligibility. Why? I'm a little selfish. I think Trae Young on an OU team right now would be fantastic. And it's also for more highlights like this. Zion Williamson, RJ Barrett, Cam Reddish. That Duke team got upset in one round. You keep them there for 2 or 3 years, they've got 2 or 3 more titles. In my opinion, I think that this Duke team was solid, and I think because of an upset and the one and done rule, we were robbed of another year like that. That Duke team had 3 players drafted in the top 10 overall of the NBA draft. And I think Trae Young, for his argument, if he's on this OU team this year, that's the one thing this OU team needs to really be elite, is that elite scorer. Because we have guys that are playmakers and people that can fill roles, get assists, score, Austin Reeves, but the Sooners need a number 1 scorer. And if they still had Trae Young on the team, I think they'd be a top 5 team in the country right now.
I like that take. I agree with you on that one. I disagree on eliminating the rule. I think the rule is fine. I don't mind guys going to college for 1 year and then going to get their money in the NBA. I think that's totally fine. I don't like the other options of like G League out of high school and that route. I think they should play in college. I think playing college ball, even if it's just 1 year, is crucial for these players. You're going to college, you're not only getting an education, but you're learning from some of the best coaches in the game. Who wouldn't want to go play for Coach K? I think, let's see, Zion did, RJ Barrett did, Cam Reddish did, all top 5 picks in the draft. They all went there and they learned from the best. And now you're seeing Zion is an all-star. RJ Barrett and Cameron Reddish are playing well in the NBA. It makes a difference. Yes, I would love to see Trae Young, Ben Simmons, all those guys still in college ball with their eligibility. But I understand the whole go get your money thing. Makes sense. But I think college ball in general is just essential. So whether it's 1 year, whether it's 4 years, they definitely need to do that, and they definitely need to go. The high school route, coming out of high school, going to the G League, stuff like that, no, none of that. The one and done rule is totally fine. I don't mind it.
So I understand what both of you think. I'll say no, they should not eliminate the one and done because there's really no perfect solution to this. Do you follow football's model and say they have to play for 2 or 3 years if they redshirt? Do you follow baseball's model and say you can either go out of high school or you're going to spend 4 years? And what the NBA says matters a lot because right now it's just one post-grad year. It doesn't matter how you spend it, whether you go to Canada like Thon Maker or Australia and New Zealand like LaMelo Ball or now to the G League. As long as the NBA has that rule, I think they should allow the one and done because ultimately college basketball is at its best when most of the best players play, and allowing the one and dones is the best way to ensure that most of the best players will at least get 1 season in college basketball. Now, if the NBA changes their rules and allows players to come out of high school, or if the name, image, and licensing bill is passed through Congress and then players can get paid in college through endorsement deals, that changes things pretty significantly. But as everything stands right now, I'd say the one and dones have to stay.
I think that name, image, and likeness bill is going to be huge because if those guys are able to get paid coming into college and getting those endorsements, they will have no reason not to then stay 4 years because that's what it's usually about is these guys are coming here, they want to play their 1 year, and then they want to go get their money. If they're getting their money already, Saul, you might get your wish, man. You might get 3 or 4 years of some guys.
And man, would I love that. We missed out on Zion. Maybe we'll get another one in the future.
Coming up next on GamedayU, our analysts make their picks for this weekend's biggest games. Welcome back to Game Day U. It's our last segment of the show, and that means it's time for Pick'em. But first, Saul, which matchup is your game to watch this week?
I've got Auburn, Alabama. Rivalry games are always fun. They're always close. Alabama is the best team in the SEC. Sharif Cooper is the best player in the SEC. I think Auburn will keep it close and entertaining with Sharif Cooper, but I think Bama will ultimately win the Iron Bowl.
I have Louisville versus Duke, Saturday night primetime game on ESPN. Down year for Duke, yes, but these teams are sitting 5 and 6 in the AAC conference, ACC conference, excuse me, and they definitely need help in the tournament chances. So this game is big for both teams. I like Duke in this though.
I've got Illinois, Michigan. That's not till next Tuesday. I talked about it a little already. I think it's going to be a really entertaining game. I've got to go with the Wolverines just because of Hunter Robinson, a 7'1" freshman. I like him. I do think it's going to be competitive, and I'm excited to watch it.
Next up, which top team do you think is going to face an upset?
I'm going to go with Auburn, but not for the Auburn-Bama game. I'm going to go for Auburn over Tennessee, February 27th. Tennessee is on a downturn and are losing momentum fast. And I think with Sharif Cooper, like I said earlier, being the best player in the SEC, I think Sharif Cooper is going to have a great game. And I think they're going to win pretty big, too. I don't think it's going to be close.
I'm going to stay in the SEC, and I'm going to go with LSU over Arkansas. Now, I think LSU, like you talked about earlier, Saul, they have a really good offensive game, and I think they're going to get it going, and I think they can beat this Arkansas team, no problem.
I'm going to stick in the Big Ten, and I think Purdue's going to beat Wisconsin next Tuesday. The Boilermakers are on the bubble. They need a win to solidify an at-large spot. Wisconsin's a good team, but they've been trending a little down, a little inconsistent for me. I think the Boilermakers can get a big win when they need it most.
Well, there's a top 20 Big 12 matchup this weekend in Lubbock with the Longhorns and the Red Raiders. Saul, who are you picking?
I've got Texas Tech winning this. They've kind of been on a downturn recently too, but not as bad as Texas. Texas has looked bad lately, and Texas Tech has, lost last couple of games, last few. With Chris Beard getting ejected, I think we're going to see a return of the McClung, and I think Texas Tech's going to pull out this win.
I don't know, man. I like Texas. They just beat Kansas in overtime, so I think Texas is going to take this one over the MAC and Texas Tech.
I'm going to stick with the Red Raiders. Texas did just get that win. Texas Tech desperately needs to get a win. They've fallen after Beard's ejection. They've lost several games in a row. They desperately need this win in Lubbock. I'll go with the desperation win for the Red Raiders.
A Big Ten matchup takes place on Saturday when number 5 Illinois travels to Wisconsin. Who do you think takes this one?
I've got Illinois winning this. They did just lose to a Michigan State team, but that's an underrated Michigan State team. They're second in the Big Ten. They're a good team. I think they can pull out this win.
Hey, Mom, this one's for you. Go Illinois. I got them winning another one against Wisconsin.
I don't think Illinois will beat Michigan. I do think they're going to beat Wisconsin. I don't think it's going to be close. Illini all the way.
The undefeated Baylor Bears take on the former Big 12 powerhouse, the Kansas Jayhawks, in Lawrence. Are you taking Baylor or Kansas?
I'm taking the best team in the country, Baylor. I've said this over and over and over and over again. Baylor is the best team in the country. They're going to beat Kansas, not even close.
They are, but I think an upset might happen. Baylor's got to lose a game at some point, right? And I think it's against Kansas. I got Kansas.
The Jayhawks have been hot, but I can't pick against the Bears until they lose. I think Baylor's going to win a close one.
Well, it's number 9 Iowa at number 4 Ohio State on Sunday. Can the Hawkeyes defeat the Buckeyes?
Yes, they can. I think so. I've got Iowa winning this, and I've got Luka Garza having a big night to put him back in the Player of the Year contention.
I got Iowa too, and for that reason as well, I'm liking Luka Garza in this game against Ohio State.
I think y'all are both crazy. EJ Liddell's about to show why Ohio State's ranked 4th in the country right now, and the Buckeyes are going to beat Iowa.
And to wrap things up, it's Bedlam time in Norman, Oklahoma. Which rival will win bragging rights come this weekend, Oklahoma or Oklahoma State?
I said earlier, the key to winning this Bedlam game is stopping Cade Cunningham, and I think Lon Kruger's defense will stop Cade Cunningham. If he goes off, OSU will win big. If he doesn't, OU will win. But I think Lon Kruger's defense will stop OU, and I have OU winning this game.
Don't get mad at me, but I like Oklahoma State in this. OU shooting's been off lately. They need to find that, but I think OSU might just take this one.
The game's in Norman. OU's coming off a loss. I think they'll be plenty motivated for the rivalry match. I have the Sooners.
It should be a good game, though. I definitely think this will be a really good game. It'll be a close game. I'm excited to see a Cade Cunningham against whoever is defending the matchup. I think that's just going to be the matchup to watch all game.
I'm interested to see who Lon Kruger has putting on against Cade Cunningham, because he is a guard and has all the guard, qualities about him where he can make great passes and score from deep. But he's also 6'8", so you can't really put a Umoja Gibson who's 6'1" against him. So it's going to be an interesting challenge for the Sooners.
I'm looking forward to the game. I'm looking forward to getting to be there. I think a Walker is probably your best option. I'd also be curious to see if the Sooners try any zone against Cunningham and make him shoot some threes. He can hit threes. He's not the world's best three-point shooter, and I'm interested to see if they try a zone to not let him get to the rim.
Well, thank you for watching GamedayU live from Studio D at the University of Oklahoma. We'll be here next week, same time, same place. On behalf of Saul Meyer, Ben Thomas, and Grayson Blaylock, and everyone behind the scenes, I'm Elise Jones. Have a good night.